And when we do, Jesus says, that will show up in how we deeply and passionately love one another. When Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated back in the spring of 1968, he wasn't the nearly universally revered figure that he is today. Much of America was still segregated at that time. I was in elementary school, but still I knew plenty of people who thought of Dr. King as nothing more than a rabble-rouser and a troublemaker. And when he came out against the Vietnam War in 1967, it only deepened those people's dislike for him. And I can recall some of those people rolling their eyes when President Johnson declared a national day of mourning following his murder, and when the Atlanta schools closed for the day of his funeral. It's hard to remember sometimes, but it was a terribly tense time, a terribly difficult time. The racial divisions were high, especially in my native South. And President Johnson didn't even go to the funeral out of fears that his appearance might spark riots and violence. And as thousands of African American civil rights workers, dignitaries, politicians streamed into Atlanta for the funeral events, lodgings were hard to come by. And at that moment, Central Presbyterian Church, a mostly white, upper middle class congregation, knew that they had to help. Led by their pastor, Randy Taylor, they tried to feed and house as many people as they could. Members brought in food. 900 cots were set up around the church, but that wasn't enough for everybody that showed up. People were sleeping on floors. And the church was open round the clock for days. Given the times, it would have been easier simply to have done nothing. But Central Presbyterian had realized earlier, years earlier, that Jesus' call to love one another had required them to get involved in the civil rights movement, even if it meant ridicule and threats, even if it put them in danger. You know, American Christianity has often tended to become mostly about ideas and beliefs, and about very individual personal decisions to accept those ideas and beliefs. But Jesus came to love us passionately, with a love so fierce that he would even die for us. And when that passionate love moves in us, it cannot help but respond with love of our own. Jesus says, just as I have loved you, you also should love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples. Thanks be to God. And now, as God's people, let us stand and sing. Our hymn is a mystery hymn. It's nothing in your bulletin. It is 367. Jesus, Jesus.